I have two stories I have to share with you. They're not necessarily related to each other. However, each one of them is of tremendous importance, obviously. The first one is, at Shalashudas last night I asked a question, and I told someone that if he'd be here in the morning, he would be able to get the answer to the question. So in regard to that, I have to tell you the following story. And what happened one time is that in Europe, a person traveled from city to city with what was called a balagola. Balagola is a wagon driver. So there was a Rav who traveled from city to city, always accompanied by the same balagola. He had the same wagon driver that went with him all the time. And when they came to the city, the Rav got all kinds of kavod and everything like that. He came into the front of the shul, and the balagola sat all the way in the back. So one time they're going, the balagola says to the Rav, said, can't we switch one time? That how about if we just, let's say, switch clothes? And when we're going into the city, you'll drive the wagon, and I'll sit in the back, in the rabbi seat over there, and then when we come into the city, I'll be able to go to the front of the shul just once in a while to be able to do that. So Rav says, okay, perfect, I agree, we'll do that. They are coming close to the city, they stop, they change clothes, and the Rav is driving the wagon. The balagola, the wagon driver, is now sitting in the back with the Iztila D'Rabbanan, and he's wearing the rabbinical garb and everything. They come into the city. The rabbi parks as best as he can. After all, how well does he know how to drive? Anyway, he parks, and they walk into the shul. The balagola goes up to the front of the shul. The Rav goes and sits in the back row, and as soon as the erstwhile Rav, this apparent Rav, comes up to the front, people come over to him and say, we have a question that has been bothering us, and we've been looking forward to your coming back. And we're so happy that you're here now. This and this is the question that has been bothering us. And he's stuck. But he says very quickly, something? That's such an easy question. Even my balagola can answer. Why don't you just go ask him, and he'll tell you what the answer to the question is. That's story number one. So anybody who wants the answer, really, it was a very easy thing. You could ask anybody who was in shul this morning for the answer to yesterday's question. The second thing is that, welcome to Rabbi Steinberg, who is here, who boated down.
I'm dressed like a balagola today.
Who boated down here, and we're happy to have him here. And we share a blog that we read together, and sometimes we even write together. So something that was on the blog today, what it is that rabbis discuss various issues. So there is a question that came up. A rabbi who lives in a certain community in Canada, very far away. He lives, it's probably 1,000 miles away from the closest community to him. There was a child born, and there's no mohel in the city. So he wants to know what people's opinion, what should he do? What are the possibilities over there? There's a possibility of having a non-religious doctor do it. There's a possibility of perhaps the non-religious doctor setting up and doing all the preparation for the bris, and that the rabbi himself will do the chituch, will actually do the cutting after that. And so he presents, and he wants to hear, what do people think about this? So somebody who wrote back, who I'm pretty sure had been the rabbi of that shul many years before, wrote back and said that his suggestion is that what the shul should do is to create a fund, that they would bring in a mohel, and it's one of the guarantees for the members of the shul that anyone who has a baby, that the shul will provide for a kosher bris, bringing in a mohel from a large city. And the cost, said, is probably $800 to $1,000, but that this is something that would be borne by the shul, by the community, and would be a service for every member of the community. And he said, as far as the other suggestion as to the mohel setting things up, and he, the rabbi, doing the chituch, which is, by the way, I have done that, but not in the case in which there wasn't anyone, but it's just that at the bris of our oldest grandson, what happened was that there weren't enough kibudim to give out. So it was either that or mitzitza. And I decided I would take the chituch, and so I did that, and Baruch Hashem, everything's okay. And then I did it another time afterwards, and one time in San Diego was getting a different child.
Oh.
And one time in San Diego it got to be very late, and the mall was coming, and had to figure out how late during the day. A bris has to take place biyom Hashmini, on the 8th day itself. So I had to figure out how late could it be and how long could we wait, or else I would have to do the bris and have it set up. Baruch Hashem, I trained a Moel, learned with him, and anyway, he has Kabbalah for Mila, so someone's able to do that now. But the issue was, should they have a non-frum doctor set up the whole bris, and then the rabbi would do the chita? So the former rabbi said that he had discussed this with Reb David Feinstein, the son of Reb Moshe Feinstein, and he said no, that they could not do that. It was not proper to do, because what would happen is, his words were that a takala would come from this. That is, a stumbling block would come from this, that what everybody would see is that the non-religious person is the one who did the bris. And the rabbi made some whatever stuff that rabbis do over there, and what would result from this is people would say that you can have a non-religious person doing the bris. And therefore he said no, in the name of Reb David Feinstein. So therefore sometimes there are things which would perhaps be permitted, but at times someone says you can't do it because of what may result from that at another time. And just two stories came to my mind to share with you. Now, thank you to all who have come for the yard site to help make the minyan. And after daven, there's a l'chaim and mizon.